Okay, in just a moment, David Shelton will join us, and we'll start talking about some high school football here in South Carolina as we go into, call it week 0, call it week 1. Just don't call David Shelton late for dinner, as David joins us from the High School Sports Report. I was talking to Billy Baker today, and Billy Baker is very excited about what they're doing at the High School Sports Report. Going to be publishing a 100-page high school football special on his website, which is a free website. I know David had a lot to do with that, so make sure you check that out on hssr.com. The High School Sports Report, over 40 years of covering high school football in South Carolina, and David has been there for every one of those years. You can also find him in the Post and Courier in Charleston, and he joins us now. And a happy football season to you.
It is indeed. Year number 36.
Oh, you're only 36 in. Okay, I'm sorry. I aged you too much.
Well, this might be 37. I was there the first issue they ever did, so I've been there for, if it's 40 years, it can't be 40. Because I was 18 then, and I started working there when I was 21. So Billy might have been doing something small in 40 for those first few years, but I was a writer in the very first issue. So
well, I'm going to tell you, if you don't mind me embarrassing you, he told me he hired you at 19 and you drove up on a motorcycle to answer the want ad, and you drove up on a motorcycle.
I did drive up on a motorcycle, but I was not 19. I was 21.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you're ready to rock and roll. What do you like around the state tonight?
Well, I mean, I think there's some interesting matchups. Again, it's week 0, so you have a few rivalry games like West and South Florence. You got South Point and Spartanburg. Oceanside Collegiate and Irmo is going to be a really entertaining game for the fans. And then you got, some rivalry games like Somerville Stratford. They normally play later in the year, and they're playing in the opener. And the game I'm at, I think, is got a good Ashley Ridge at Berkeley. It's got a great potential for some points to be scored, which means it'll probably be 3-0 on a last-second field goal. In
other words, you're saying that oftentimes what you expect to happen does not come to fruition.
Yeah. I think both teams have great quarterbacks and great passing games, but we'll see how the defenses respond. It's early. Defenses may be a little ahead of the offenses at this point, so we'll see. But 2 good quarterbacks, so that's always fun.
All right, T.L. Hannah Burns, intriguing matchup here. Imagine that Hannah is going to, run the football 99.9% of the time if they can. Burns will throw it a good bit if they can. Which way do you see this one going?
Well, I like Hannah in this game. I think they're farther along from the reports I saw and been reading and talking to people. Burns has not looked good in the preseason, so I think that's a tough bite to chew on in the first game with what Hannah's going to do offensively with that ground and pound, and they're going to try to wear Burns down. But I think Hannah's a team that a lot of people aren't talking about, but, heck, it's week 0. But I think, come week 12, 13, they're going to still be hanging around.
Let's talk about Spartanburg going over to Rock Hill to play South Point. This South Point team, they're loaded once again with young talents and ranked number 4. Spartanburg is Spartanburg. Or is Spartanburg Spartanburg? What do you expect from Spartanburg?
Well, I think the Vikings are better than they have been in the last 2 years. I think, they've had, for various reasons, they've been young or had injuries or whatever. But I think Mark Hodge is finally starting to get the program together, what he wants. And then, like you said, South Point is going to be South Point. They're going to be athletic. They're going to run some guys out there that can flat out fly and that will be physical. And it's a really good early test for both teams. We'll see, how they respond. Again, a lot of football will be played after tonight, but these early tests can kind of give you a little glimpse as to what each team has.
Greenville at Dorman. What about these two teams? They have the potential to score a bunch of points. Greenville, of course, has been scoring points in bunches over the last several years. Dorman, still maybe trying to recover from the turnover in coaches in back-to-back years. Where is that Dorman program now, and what do you think about this matchup with Greenville?
Well, a year ago or 2 years ago, this matchup would have been one of the top 4 or 5 games in the state. It's not going to be that. Greenville losing Coach Porter to Lawrence and plus the graduation losses, they're going to be a totally different team. Dorman was kind of down last year. I think they're going to make a little bit of a comeback. Probably good enough to win this game, but they got some tough cookies ahead of them. So this is a game. Both teams really want to win because the wins may be hard to come by as the season progresses.
David, since we're down here on the coast, I want to get your take on the new 5A region that's here, basically encompassed Horry County teams, especially a team like Myrtle Beach moving up to Class 5A. It's not a big transition, I don't think, for them, but how do you anticipate they'll handle moving up to 5A?
Well, I think they're better equipped to do it this year than they have been in any of the recent years. They have great receivers. They have a really solid quarterback. They got to find some linemen, or they got linemen. They just got to develop them and get consistent. And I think defensively they're going to be pretty solid. So, I think they had a little bump in the road. I think 2 years ago they had a losing record, which is the only one that Mickey Wilson's had since he's been there. And then they bounced back and won 9 games last year. So I think they're going to be in that range again. Maybe not quite up to 9 wins, but certainly a playoff team and a team that can win that region.
Do we learn anything about the charter schools tonight, especially the ones that had to move up 2 or 3 levels, including, let's say, Oceanside taking on Irmo tonight? What will you glean from that final score?
Well, I got to see them both last Friday night in the Jamboree, and Irmo looked really sharp. That quarterback and that receiver, Donovan Murph, he's the legit real deal. He kind of reminds me of Adam Randall a little bit. He's a big, strong kid.
Wow.
Maybe not quite as big as Adam was as a senior, but he can run, and that quarterback can get it to him. Oceanside's got the same thing. They got a quarterback. They got receivers. I think they have not been great in the preseason. They have not been executing and scoring points like a lot of people thought. So it's a big challenge for them. And, you look at Christ Church, who's moved up to 3A, but they're playing at Hammond. That's going to be a heck of a football game. Yeah. And, Hammond, Skeeza, but Hammond is like the king of Skeeza. And then James Island is going to go and play Gray Collegiate, which is going to be a really good matchup. James Island's going to have a really good – James Island, defensively, they're a 5A defense. I mean, they got some players. Offensively, they got some guys to replace, so that'll be a great test for them. Gray moving up to 4A, this will be kind of what they've been seeing or what they will see when they get later in the season. So I think that's a really interesting week 0 game, which I like. I like the fact that somebody, will play Gray and somebody will play Christchurch and somebody will play Oceanside, and these are good teams that'll give them a fit.
David, I want you to lean back on your experience over the years of covering South Carolina high school football, because we ran across a story last night that is the prototypical high school football story. I don't know if you saw this, but Louisville was taking on Central Pageland, and the game was supposed to take place at Louisville tonight, but they had to ultimately play at Buford, first off because Louisville Stadium was getting work done on its track. And according to the News and Reporter up in Chester, the Central Pageland's field was eaten by army worms. Have you ever encountered that in your career?
I've heard of the worm thing before, but not canceling a game. I don't even know what kind of damage. I guess they could really tear it up, or, maybe you don't want to be tackled and get bit by a worm. I don't know. But when I heard that, I've heard of this is way back in the day, where teams would have like bugs or worms on their field or whatever. But you would think with the advance in pest control, that would not be a problem. I don't even know how many worms are we talking. Are we talking 500,000, or are we just talking 4?
We're not just talking worms here. We're talking army worms. All right, so. This ain't the kind of worm you put on the hook and drop it in the pond. This is an Army worm. That thing's been trained. That's a militia worm. So it's coming to kill you.
That was such a great story.
It is coming to bite your rear. Northwestern is leading Huff 24-20. I think that's one of those games they're playing over in Charlotte, that little kickoff thing they have over there. So they're up 24-20. David, we'll see you tonight after 10 o'clock. Be ready to rock and roll. High school scoreboard.
I'll be there.
Thanks, David. Army worms or not, David will be here.
Oh, he sounds so excited about that. We'll be back. Coastal Carolina coming up.